Okay, this is chapter 5.6, number 56, and the question gives us tan of v, and they say that it's -3, and they also ask us to find what cosine of v plus 5 pi is. But that isn't simplified enough, so what we're going to do is subtract 5 pi by 2 pi so that we can reduce it, because 2 pi is just going around the circle once. So we're going to have 5 pi minus 2 pi, and that'll give us 3 pi. But we can subtract again from 2 pi to get pi. And so essentially what they're asking us is for cosine of v plus pi. The other way to write cosine of v plus pi is to write it as negative cosine of v. And that's just an identity that we learned from the book. What we're going to do now, since we're given tan, we're going to solve for cosine using what they've given us. So if we have tan of v, another way to write that is sine of v over cosine of v. But what this tan is from here is -3. So we don't need that anymore. So we just have sine of v over cosine of v equals -3. But since we're trying to solve for cosine, we're going to try and make it to where all of our variables are cosine. So we're going to have -3 cosine of v equals sine of v. And all that I did was multiply cosine on this side and on this side. Okay, so now we're going to put this into the Pythagorean theorem. And in order to do that, we want to have both of our variables, sine and cosine, to be just cosine, since that's what we're solving for in the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by putting cosine squared v plus a cosine squared here, not a sine. So in order to do that, to get just what sine equals, since sine equals -3 cosine of v, we're going to use that. We're going to do -3 squared cosine squared of v equals 1. So now that we have this, we're going to simplify it to cosine squared v plus 9 cosine squared of v equals 1. And 9 plus 1 is 10, so we have 10 cosine squared of v equals 1. We're going to divide both sides, this side and this side, by 10 so that we can isolate our variable. We're going to have cosine squared v equals 1/10. And if we square root both sides, that'll be cosine of v equals 1 over the square root of 10, or the square root of 10 over 10 if you want to rationalize it. However, we're not done, because if we look at a graph of the unit circle, where cosine is v plus pi is over here in the second quadrant, and whenever we have a cosine in the second quadrant, that means our x-axis is negative. So that's going to be a negative square root of 10 over 10. However, again, we're looking for negative cosine of v and not cosine of v. So we're going to multiply both sides by negative, and we're going to get negative cosine of v equals the square root of 10 over 10. And that's our answer.